Chapter 12. Meg. After the evening lessons they have enough time to sit on the fire and to tell stories. Anyhow, it was a tradition, and we didn't have television, internet or radio. To tell stories was a good entertainment. To find volunteer wasn't very difficult. Everybody wants to work up their own past and get out finally the horrible events. The teller seems to get free of the pain from the past, and the nightmares become less. Disadvantage gets around, and so we have to use a coin to find the next. We thought that was the reason why Mac wants to tell his story, but he had totally different reasons. Mac wants simply amaze us with his fantastic weapons, and he did. Mac started his story with full speed. Like all people, he learned very fast that the zombies can't be killed. At first he was angry about that, but after a time exactly that reason enjoy him, because shaking body parts are very funny. His first weapon was simply constructed. He creates slingshots and catapults to shoot stones, rocks, sticks and bottles. Nothing of that cut walking corpse in pieces. With the rocks he was able to smash the zombies and keep them in the same position on the ground. But if you go too close, they were able to catch you and bite you in the foot. Undead nails with sticks on the wall were less danger, but not a nice view if you stay close to that. The bottles were hardly more effective than the stones. Only if the bottles smashed in the moment of the shot, they cause very bad wounds and cut sometimes senses or muscles. That slows down the dead walker, but they were still able to move. Without pain it doesn't matter, and they were still dangerous. The spliced corpse continues to walk, also if they lost legs and arms. The problem about the walking stinker was, they still want to bite and eat you, and these methods didn't solve it. To optimize his weapons, Mac added to his armor inflammable and explosive shots. To this point of time, he didn't know that this make all worst. For him it looks like he could stop the plague. After he get the information from the news that it is a spell and his methods increase it, he changed his techniques. At once he deactivated his explosive traps in his garden. Didn't use explosive shots or inflammable substances, slingshots and catapults than before, and load them at the start of his new experiments with knives, circle saw blades and sharp metal sheets. His equipments weren't built for that, and so they didn't work very well. He was able to cut body parts on a halfway, but too often the shot didn't bullseye. He ran very fast out of shots and have to collect the shots or find new, and that need a lots of time and was too dangerous. He gets nerfed and damped his weapons, like slingshots and catapults, and constructed new weapons. He changed a leaf blower to a weapon and was able to shot anything he want or all he get into the tube. Over an extra tube vertical to the main tube, he was able to load the weapon with all who wasn't bigger than an orange. After a few times he was tired to load by hand the single shots for a single shoot. To load easier, he constructed a flap mechanism to shoot like a paintball gun. The flap let fall the shots one by one into the main tube. With that he was able to shoot and load faster and preciser. At begin he fired with stones, steel balls and shaving blades. The stones fly not far enough for him. The steel balls produce only holes, and the shaving blades fly without control and not very far. If they find the aim, they didn't wound it good enough, but stick very good into the rotten flesh. That makes the zombies more dangerous than before. The leaf blower worked very good. He couldn't waste it, and so he starts new experiments with glass and ceramic fragments. He can control the distance and the effect of destruction over the weight, form and size of the fragments. With the fragments he can precise cut body weaknesses like joints, muscles and senses. The leaf blower was like a water pistol and the beam cuts arms. The zombies look like a mosaic picture, but they were only able to shake on the ground. A normal movement wasn't possible with such a lot cut senses, muscles, joints and strings. After 4 months, Mac gets bored. It was similar to a video game. If you use always the same favorite weapon, you get bored. The leaf blower was boring for Mac after a time. He has to find something new, and the blower was a distance weapon. Mac wants now a closer method to cut the assholes in pieces, and so he invented weapons with blades. He searched at first in the shops. A motor-powered circle and chainsaw was 2 weeks his favorite and good weapon for the zombie hunt. Equipment invaded for wood was excellent for extremities of undead. In a run he was able to cut arms and legs in seconds. Although the blood of zombies was rotten, but it dirted the cutting tools after a few uses too. It didn't squirt, but it was sticky like honey. The circle saw and chainsaw blades of the motor tools were useless after a few cuts. Although the weapons were very effective, they became boring for Mac. His favorite was rotating blades. Nothing like that existed in shops, and he can't buy it or now steal it. For that reason he has to construct it by himself, and created a walking blender. To develop this weapon, he searched for 3 sickle blades and welded them on a sickle saw blade. Mac gets a problem with his new blades. The radius of the circle saw blade increases, and he wasn't able to hold the motor tool without cutting himself. At the first start he almost cut his hand from his arm. To avoid this, he constructs a longer holding and changed the position of the switch on button. After his modifications, he holds in his hand a very effective weapon, and it became very fast his favorite. At the first time he used the rotating sickle, he get problems. The blades stick a few times in bones or in the flesh of the zombies. After he increases the rotation to maximum and cuts slower, the weapon works perfect. At most, he didn't need to swing the rotating blades from right to the left. It was totally enough to let the zombies come closer. If they want to catch him, they get at once a 3-finger cut or they lose the whole arm. For legs and the head, a short move was enough in the right high and the walker fall to the ground. With that weapon Mac was able to get surrounded almost unlimited by a big number of zombies without the danger of get eaten. He only needs to drive the sickle on high speed and rotate slowly in a circle, and the body parts fly away. If he were a vampire he could free the whole world from the plague. For a human it was too difficult to hold in hand the heavy thing longer than a half an hour, and after 40 minutes the tank was empty. With no power he will be doomed or eaten and get overrun. That was the reason why he searched for the protection of a group. He was in this case able to rest if he was down, could fill up petrol if his tank was empty, and was protected if his weapon didn't work anymore. But the rotating sickles weren't his only invention. To cut a Walking Dead in the stand or on the ground in pieces, he combined a sharp spade with a pressure air hammer. It works very well, but it was also very heavy and Mac could hold it against an enemy only a few minutes. To stop a zombie storm it was too ineffective, heavy and slow, but to cut corpse on the ground the weapon worked perfect and nothing was comparable. You have to touch the body part you want to cut, and a second later the zombie lost a head, arm or a leg. The air hammer was a wonderful tool, but Mac's favorite was the rotating sickle. He was sure that also this weapon will be boring after a few uses. To avoid that he invented more machines and equipment. With a tape saw he constructed the best zombie trap Sam and Finu have ever seen. He combined the tape saw with a slide. The end of the slide was the begin of the saw. He saved the slide and the saw with massive walls in form of a cone. To lure the undead and to oversound the saw noises, he played loud rock music in the direction of the cone. Lured from the noises, the stupid corpse walks into the cone, get separated and fall one by one into the slide. At the end of the slide there arrive directly the tape saw and will be cut in 2 pieces. In that case, it doesn't matter if they become split from head to the feet or from kidney to kidney. The half parts fall on the side of the saw on a conveyor belt and find their way into the next river. As a half shaking body part, it was totally impossible to move in any special direction. If a zombie were able to stop before he get into the saw, the next sliding undead pushes him into the sharp saw blades. Like I told you, it was a genius zombie trap, and Fino and Sam didn't saw anything better. You only have to switch on the saw and the conveyor belt and you get half zombies. The only problem was that this masterpiece couldn't free the whole world. But for his village it was the best solution to get rid of the plague. His trap works only in this place, and so he has to defend the rest of the people with other weapons by hand. To do this in future, he used different equipments. Once a big group of zombies walk through his village, Mac take a lawn mower in his hand, switch it on and walk with the rotating blades in front of his tummy through the group and cut them in pieces. The body parts fly from the right to the left and the zombies lost faster fingers, arms and hands than I don't know. That didn't work totally at the first time, and so he had to walk more than 10 times till he cut all zombie arms to mud. The aimless corpse were at the end easy to cut in pieces and wasted into the next big hole. For the extraction of heads and legs he used the sickle weapon. Mac confesses that this genius idea with the lawn mower wasn't from him. He saw it in a movie called Brain Dead. But the rest of his arsenal was complete his inventions. At the end of his story, he count all his weapons, how they work and how to use it to kick zombie asses. For example, he changed a lawn cutter to cut faster zombie fingers and faces. He extracted the little strings and added blades. The weak weapon was to his shame not strong enough to cut arms and legs. The blades get stuck in arms, legs or necks. That makes them useless. For hands, fingers, lower jaw and foot joints it works perfect. You have to use it at maximum power and body parts fly away. If you hold the blade into zombie faces, you were able to cut the face in pieces. Nose, lips, eyes, ears and lower jaw, also teeth fly away. Without fingers, hands, no eyes, ears or a complete mouth, they couldn't catch and bite you. But the lawn cutter was for Mac too inefficient, and so he used it only for children zombies. All his weapons based on motor power and need petrol. But petrol wasn't cheap or easy to get. That was the reason to change his behavior and to use cutting tools without motor power. Swords, axes, senses and other general weapons were too boring for Mac, and so he searched for alternatives. But nothing could satisfy him. The only one who come closer enough was a regular hedge clipper. Very sharp, it was perfect to cut all he want and become a good alternative to his other weapons. At the end of his story, Mac warns about a hedge trimmer and tells them never use it in a zombie hunt. It worked because it can cut thin and thick branches and small bones are no problem for it. But it is simple to slow and ineffective to defend yourself. That was the end of Mac's story. By the way, it wasn't a real story. It was a counting of weapons and the efficiency of them.